All right, can I move it now? There we go. All right. So Ninja took the golden kicker. Man, that's a tough break. A tough break. And if it happened to literally anyone else, I'd hate to see it. I hope every time he fucking tries to kick, it gets blocked. All right. All right. Let's begin with the season 10 draft review. We're going to take these in alphabetical order based on the username, beginning with your man and mine, CBK, the New York Jets. All right. First off, let's look at that playbook. The new Philadelphia playbook, and CBK took this early. He saw something in this playbook that I did not. But here's what you got. You got Indy pass one, and then you have the pass play from the Washington and Minnesota playbooks, the three receiver route where bottom receiver and tight end run posts, and the top wide receiver goes deep. I actually had a lot of success with that play when I had the Washington playbook in season 5. It helps to have a really fast guy at top wide receiver, which I did, and it helped a lot. Because although you just feed it underneath, they eventually will come up on it, and then you can beat them deep. But so now we know he's got Indy pass one, and then double posts in that Philadelphia playbook. It's not one I was dying to grab early. CBK, he liked it. The personnel he's going to be putting in that is not bad. Phil Simms, Walter Payton, and the new Philadelphia receiver core, highlighted by I think Mike Quick, top wide receiver. Now his best guy is his top wide receiver, but he's not a particularly good one. It's a deep spot, right? Like there's lots of decent top wide receivers. Most teams have one. Of the 13 teams we drafted for, I think only or drafted from, I think only Denver, Dallas, and New York have shitty top receivers. So he's got some speed there. Will it be enough? I mean, I suppose we'll see. Probably going to have to get rid of the ball pretty quick wherever the human defender is not, right? So if they start up top, you got to hit it on the bottom. If they start on bottom, you got to hit them up top. Walter Payton, of course, you can't go wrong there. Any playbook with 2 plays, he's going to do work for you. Chicago offensive line, the best, not Indy's the best one available. Second best one available. Chicago's right there with the hero pick, San Francisco line. So that's an interesting group. Phil Simms and Doug Williams are like neutral pH. They are water, right? There's never going to be a play where they totally bail you out and you're like, holy shit, only Phil Simms could have made that throw. And I'm something of a Phil Simms expert. I've had him for two draft league seasons. But also, as long as you're like, keep your pants on, don't do anything stupid, they won't screw you over either. So neutral. They don't really help you. They don't really hurt you. Not a great receiver core. Walter Payton's a great back. The thing about Indy Pass 1 is in my opinion, it's the second most difficult play to manage. Maybe the first. I really am not good with that 4 receiver pass route that is shared by San Fran, Cleveland, and Minnesota. But Indy Pass 1 is right there in how difficult a time I have managing it. But if you're calm, it's unstoppable. The worst thing that can happen to you is like a 5 to 7 yard dump off to your tight end. So it's a good play if you can master it. I never have. I'm okay with Pass 1. But the potential for a big play on the Booza Bomb is always there. Let's look at this defense. Dallas top sucks. Dallas middle sucks. Well, that's odd. So is Tim McDonald? I guess I didn't look that hard. He's not a top safety. He's a bottom safety. This is he pulled the Drew, where he drafted a unit with a decent player and then somewhat upgraded him, right? So if Tim McDonald is in fact a bottom safety, then Fred Robinson is sitting this year out, which is unfortunate because he would be the third best guy counting at that spot, counting Tim McDonald. So CBK here with Tim McDonald and Dwayne Bickett, basically, is the highlight of this defense. Best guy on top is Jim Jeffcoat, the top D end for Dallas. So this is not a good defense. Three good players were drafted. Only two will be taking the field. Seattle special teams. Punter's not going to help you. Kicker's not going to help you. The Pink Demon, who missed last season because of Drew doing a Drew, which is what I'm going to call it now, where you replace a good player. I'm not sure it's ever happened before these last two seasons. The Pink Demon, he's back, baby, and he is pissed that he missed season 9. So he's coming. He's coming for everybody. I usually rate these things on a scale of shabby or not too shabby, and I want to make clear here towards the beginning. Now, this is from my perspective. Do I want to play with this team? If I do, it's not too shabby. If I don't, then it's shabby. I'm going to say this is shabby. I don't like that defense. And Walter Payton's going to have to do a lot of work this season. Now, if anyone can do it, it's sweetness. So we shall see. Let's look at Dizzy P in Denver. Dizzy always puts a good team on the field. Always, man. And this year, he's running that Miami offense, which is the luster has come off a little bit. The bloom's come off the rose, maybe. It's always been a good playbook. It's always been a good playbook. I think its efficacy did get overstated there for a while. The drawback is it's basically a 3-play playbook because no one's ever going to call run, except maybe a few times where they think they can catch you, right? And so what really makes the playbook sing is if you can crush dudes on the run. Is Roger Craig a guy who can crush dudes on the run? I don't know. He is a step faster than Lorenzo Hampton, who's usually in this offense. But let's not roll around in the poop about what's good and what's bad, right? What's bad. Let's talk about what's good. Warren Moon, hero pick, very strong quarterback here. I had him. You could argue he was either 4 or 5, depending on your preference. I think the big three remain the big three: Marino, Elway, and Montana. And then a step below them, you've got Moon and Cunningham, right? If you want a stronger arm, Moon's your man. If you want a faster guy, then it's Randall, right? So we're looking at like the 4th best QB here. He's got the Los Angeles receiving core in the wide open Miami playbook. The only thing that sucks about this is that Todd Christensen's an outstanding receiving target, and in the Miami playbook, you don't necessarily get him the ball. There are some instances, particularly with pass 3, where it's kind of attractive to feed him the ball. So we'll see what Dizzy can do with that. But man, that could be a very difficult offense to manage if you're not getting I'm missing some comments here. Well, don't worry about it, 40. We all make mistakes. Special teams for Dizzy is actually Denver, but they are practically clones. Yeah, I didn't even look. We'll get to that in a second. I didn't even look that closely at Philadelphia special teams. I think punter is their strongest suit. Maybe I'm wrong. So could be a real wild offense there in Denver. Defense. This is a pretty darn good one. You know, you could argue that Washington tops the best overall unit because you've got an elite defender in Dexter Manley, and then 2 very useful defenders in Wilbur, who can be an extra point blocker for you, and then Barry Wilburn in the top safety spot. There's a lot of speed there for one pick. Okay, Washington defensive top, outstanding, can't go wrong. 10 out of 10, would bang again. Minnesota mid, I think they have a 14-9 guy who actually, and I think he's the top defensive tackle, could be useful against his own playbook. So he's never going to use that guy, right? Like you can use that top defensive tackle against the Miami playbook to some good effect, right? Because you start off just right in the guy's face. But he's got the Miami playbook, so he doesn't have to worry about it. Millard, that's what I'm thinking of. I think he's a 14-9 guy. And then you got our boy Frank Minifield at bottom safety. Very good defense here. Really an outstanding team. Dizzy has Denver special teams. Denver special teams suck. They do have a decent kicker. Overall, I would say this team is not too shabby. I would play with these old boys for sure, for sure, for sure. All right. Now let's see if I can blow this up. All right. Two guys here. When you're talking about Drew Manster and DPS, I mean, you flip a coin, you got pretty good odds you're talking about the league champion that year. So these guys have won the league the last 2 seasons. Let's look at these teams. Drew Manster back in the Seattle playbook. He is staffing it this time with John Elway. Can't go wrong there. And then an outstanding receiver core. Hero pick Vance Johnson, who I was crushed. I didn't think Drew was going to take. I was crushed when he swiped Vance one pick before I could get him. And then he pairs him with Mark Bavaro and Stacy Robinson. In the Seattle playbook, that's an outstanding receiving core. Because John on pass two, Johnson's going to go deep and Bavaro's going to be standing wide open underneath. And if the guy doesn't give you that space, if he doesn't give you the opportunity to put the ball in Bavaro's hands with the chance to make a guy miss and get the first down over and over and over again, if he tries to get sweet with it and sneak up, then you just bomb it over the top to Vance. Classic Seattle style. Vance Johnson is Steve Largent on the juice, right? Now Timmy Smith. Timmy Smith, I mean, he's done enough in the league that you can't really doubt him. Obviously, I think you'd rather have a better back, right? I don't know how many kids out there, the millions and millions of kids who are playing Tecmo Bowl, dream of someday having a draft league roster with Timmy Smith as your running back. But he has been very successful in the league, right? You can do work with him, and you've got to do work with him because if you don't, then John Elway's going to have a hard time achieving in the way he wants to achieve with this team. Minnesota offensive line, they got one real big boy. Um, solid unit. Okay, looking at the defense, New York top. God damn it. Yeah, oh, that's right. I forgot that Drew basically drafted my team, the team of my dreams. So Carl Banks, Leonard Marshall, Cliff Odom there in the middle with the Indy unit. The bottom, TJ Turner is the highlight down there. Highlight is that's extending a lot of grace. That's stretching the word highlight to its last few threads before it snaps. San Fran special teams, you got nothing going on in the return game. They have, I think their kicker's mediocre and their punter is good. Someone fact check me on that. I'm not looking at the ratings right now. But on a rating of shabby to not too shabby, well, under different circumstances, I might have picked this exact team. I might have ended up not with John Elway and with a better running back, right? But I thought about taking Elway, right? Certainly intended to draft Vance Johnson, intended to draft the New York wide receiver core. Drew snapped them up right before I was going to pick him as well. And then Carl Banks. I didn't think Carl Banks was going to fall to me picking at 10, but a boy can dream. Yeah, this team is not too shabby. The Seattle playbook, even, Jesus, move this team. Now let's look at DPS, and let's start by talking about reigning league MVP Jim McMahon. I want you to understand how close DPS came to losing McMahon this year because I think Richie was considering taking him. I don't know how seriously Richie considered that, but I think Richie was considering seriously thinking about taking him. And I seriously thought about taking him. The thing about a lot of these quarterbacks is, and maybe some of our newer players don't realize it, is that some guys have different passing strength depending on who they're thrown to. Drew, I think, like it's always been a possibility someone would do it to bust Dan's balls. I actually had a tactical, strategic reason why I was thinking about doing it, which I'll get into here. It's bound to happen at some point, right? The league keeps growing. It's bound to happen at some point. So these quarterbacks have different passing speeds depending on where they throw the ball. Jim on the deep ball in the Chicago playbook, which I drafted very early, his strongest throw is on the deep route, right? Which is, I think that's where you want it, right? And so as other quarterback options were flying off the board, and I think figured it was going to come down to like maybe Jay Schrader, Danny White, and Jim McMahon. Of those guys, the guy with the strongest pass to WR1 is Jim McMahon. Ultimately, I did not take him. Left him for Dan, and also I like. There's other things I like about Schrader that I'll get to when I talk about my team. So let's move on here. Um, Kurt Warner, outstanding back. You can't ask for much more than Kurt Warner. There's only four guys better than him in the league, unless you want to say Herschel's a little better because of his strength. Miami receiver core is solid. Clayton and Duper, both good wide receivers. Offensive line, Dallas, terrible. Defensive top, Chicago, Dave Duerson. DPS, what's old is new, right? He's doing the shit he always does. He's got that powerful top safety. He just has one he's never had before, right? Like he's had Hanford Dixon multiple times, Ronnie Lott multiple times. Now it's Dave Duerson. DPS going to do DPS things. That'll be his primary play. Strong in the middle of the field, his hero pick is Chris Spielman and John Offerdahl with the Miami mid. I think they're clones of each other. They're basically the same guy. Both definitely usable, solid players there. Seattle bottom, Jacob Green isn't terrible. Sometimes when I play against Seattle, feels like once a game on like if I'm Denver, right, playing Seattle. It seems like once a game. Maybe it's how I'm standing there, like standing directly above him. But it's like he hits his max speed and then just comes flying in. Like you get all 14 of that max speed homing in on you like a missile. But for the most part, that's a non-factor. Dallas special teams. I mean, it could be worse. But I mean, actually, it's going to be a big change. Dan dominated the league with kick returns last year. He's not going to do that with Dante Labette. I mean, if he does, then just fold up the league. In the Indy playbook, Dan's got the skill to really make that sing. So on a question of shabby or not too shabby, do I want to play with this team? I find the defense very interesting. Yeah, I would play with this team. That's not too shabby. Okay, now let's begin with this handsome lad over here, Fiddlesticks. I have thought about this team my whole drive home. So Jay Schrader, I have said publicly I never really wanted Jay Schrader. Didn't want to ever reach the point where I had to settle with him. But then I started thinking about the different pass speeds, right? And how he could help me. Very early on in this draft, I had the Chicago playbook and the LA playbook identified as ones that I really wanted, right? Especially after Vance Johnson was off the board. And I wound up with JT Smith, who's not as good, but is still a good player. And I really thought in the Chicago playbook he could cook because both his routes are difficult to cover. And Schrader's strongest throw is to the bottom wide receiver because he's from the LA playbook. They don't have a top wide receiver. So that's why I ended up going with Schrader. And I just, didn't want to take Jim. It's tradition. 10 seasons. I say after this, now that it's happened 10 times, it's fair game, and I'm not going to feel guilty if I end up taking McMahon in the future. I just couldn't bring myself to pull the trigger on it this time. So Jay Schrader's my quarterback. No, I'm not particularly excited about it. Here's what I am excited about. Marcus Allen, JT Smith, Reggie Langhorne, and Ozzie Newsome in the Chicago playbook. Right? I like it. I don't recall where the Cleveland wide receivers generally are drafted. I got them in the 6th round, which I think undervalues them, right? But I think wide receivers in general kind of undervalued this time through the draft. So to get those guys and then replace their weak link with JT Smith and put them in a playbook that's going to give me opportunity to get all three of them the ball, that's pretty good. Langhorne, I did consider taking Seattle to get Steve Largent in that top wide receiver spot because he is faster. He is the fastest option up there. Ultimately, I think Langhorne will get it done. Willie Gault's a 7-1 guy. He gets it done in the regular Chicago offense. Offensive line, Seattle. That's no bueno. This is 2 seasons in a row where I have a poopy butt offensive line. It did not help me out last year or last season. I can tell you that. Well, let's talk about the good stuff here. Ronnie and Clyde defense. San Francisco top unit, Ronnie Lott. My problem last season, there's obviously more than one. Consistently, I was not getting enough yards when I was in an advantageous position on the run when I was on offense, and I was giving up too many yards when I was in the advantageous position on defense, right? I don't know if I lost my touch defending from the defensive end spots. I don't know if the league's just too shifty and I can't keep up. I don't know if my controllers are dog shit. I did buy some new ones this weekend, new old ones. But what we're doing is we're taking a holistic approach to resolving this issue, right? We're going to try something different. We're going to get Ronnie Lott in that top safety spot, which is not my favorite place to defend from, but we're going to do it a lot this season. Dwayne Board, top defensive end, he's going to get some play. Situationally, I'll probably call him a few times a game when they're up by that top hash, and maybe I can count on Drone Ronnie for a little bit of help. Dwayne Board will get some play. Mostly it's going to be Ronnie. Philadelphia middle, they have a defensive tackle that I'll use against Dizzy in Miami, and that's about it. And then Philadelphia bottom, Clyde Simmons. Folks, let's talk quickly about tradition. In Seattle, our defensive ends are revered, right? Bottom defensive ends. Let's talk about 4 seasons with Charles Mann, the Tecmo Seattle Hall of Famer. Let's talk about champion Al Noga. Let's talk about hero pick Lee Williams. And let's talk about Howie Long, the best pass rusher to ever put on Pink, baby, right? Like, we care. We remember our boys at bottom defensive end. Clyde Simmons, right there. He's going to carry on that tradition. Handful of times a season, he's going to generate a sack for you. He's going to flush a quarterback out into a run that he doesn't want to make. He's going to force a bad throw. He's also a very strong sidekick to your top defender. He's in a real good spot as a secondary defender. You don't want your best guy to be bottom D end, I don't think, because even the best ones can't get to the top quickly enough to take away quick throws. But as a second option, keep the other guy guessing. Fuck yeah. Totally awesome. Minnesota special teams. Coleman is not quite Reggie Roby, the guy I've had the last 2 seasons, but big upgrades in kicker. Like, if I had Chuck Nelson last season, I would have beaten Levi. And a big upgrade at kick returner, even with the shitty line. I can hopefully start outside of my own 20 sometimes this season. So this team is not too shabby, in my opinion. We'll see how it plays out. Let's look at 40 FPS coming off a surprise run to the semifinals. And I only say surprise because, I don't even know how many games he won in Season 8, but he came out of nowhere, caught lightning in a bottle. Sticking with the San Fran playbook, right? You find something that works for you. Although he's had it 3 seasons, right? Didn't work. Now we'll see if it's going to work or not work. Doug Williams, that's water, a quarterback, not going to hurt you, not going to help you. Herschel Walker, I think, like, a good back is key to making San Fran successful, right? And putting the ball in Herschel's hands will be important because he's got Denver's wide receivers. Not good. Cleveland O-line is solid. Now let's talk about his defense. Gary Jeter, a person I swear to God I'd never heard of before in my life. Thought it was a joke. I didn't know that Gary Jeter was an NFL player. And I looked him up, and he was pretty good. 70-some career sacks. There with that Miami top unit, there's nothing else there. But Gary Jeter, in a great spot, very good player. He's a Richard Dent from the Japanese round clone. Cleveland middle, nothing going on there. But the Washington bottom, Charles Mann, my dude, my ride or die, he's there. And then you got Darryl Green. That's a good unit. This is a good defense. Cleveland special teams, Drew, I know, was frustrated with the special teams performance last season. So he's taken another bite at the apple here, seeing how critical it was to Dan rolling up the league last season. No doubt. I don't know why I'm talking about Drew. I mean 40. What the shit am I talking about? Um, Cleveland special teams for 40. Um, yeah, that's the move. Who did Drew take? But now I've lost my train of thought. Drew had Crawford. All right. So now we're back at it. I'm just talking shit here. 40. Yes, I know Drew was not happy. I don't think, at least this year with that special teams, and then I'll move back on to 40. At least you don't have any expectations this year, Drew. You don't have visions of uh, kick return touchdown after kick return touchdown dancing in your head. So 40 is the man. He's pairing that Cleveland O line with McNeil, and also solid kicker, solid punter combination here. Can't go wrong with that. Back in that San Fran playbook. Is this team shabby or not too shabby? I don't like the offense at all, but I'm dog shit with San Francisco. And 40 went to the semifinals with it last season. So I'm going to say I think it's shabby. I don't want this team. But I suppose we'll see if I am proven wrong. I'd like it more if he had better receivers. All right, fight Mac, baby. Mac did make the playoffs last season. At times looked like a world beater. At times scuffled. The team he's putting out there this time around in the Minnesota playbook, I would say the Seattle wide receivers are, well, I guess Largent does go deep on the one pass. So I think quick hits to Largent on the one pass where he does a curl and then looking deep, it's not terrible. Um, Daryl Turner is slow. John L. Williams is slow. Tony Dorsett, solid back here. This is kind of a mid offense, right? Which is fine. I'm Mr. Mid offense. As I said, the only difference is I generally tend to favor a stronger back rather than a good quarterback. But QB running is undoubtedly a very strong part of Mac's game. Dizzy's as well. I didn't mention that when I was talking about his team. He's had a lot of success with it. Joe Montana's good at it. Montana would be the third best option for that style of play. Defensive top. Oh my God, this was his first round pick. Mac picked defense, and he picked a hell of a player. Oh yeah, Nelson ran a lot with the QB last season. He tended to roll, right? When I run with the QB, I roll. I do a rollout. And rollouts with Elway, like in tournament play, I do it all the time. I mean, he's the fastest guy. But yeah, I mean, in general, I don't like that. Yeah, Nelson had Elway. I don't like that style of play, but that's just because I've been beaten by it a number of times. I find it very frustrating. So just because I don't like it doesn't mean it's illegitimate. Uh, but yeah, back to the defense here. Reggie White, I think he's the best defender in the game. He is. He started as a Chris Dolman clone from the Japan ROM. He's the best defender in the game. He's in an amazing spot. He is so fast. Just an amazing player. I don't even know. I didn't even bother to Joyner. I think is all right. Like he's like Japan Simon Fletcher up there. You would never use. I can't imagine an instance where you'd use him instead of Reggie White. Washington mid, nothing there. I don't think. Chicago bottom, also nothing there, right? I guess Dan Hampton has 14 is a 14-9 guy, and those are definitely usable as like a backup defensive option. But Reggie White alone makes this, and Otis there, a bottom outside linebacker on very long field goals. Otis might get to you. I've seen it happen. Yeah, Dizzy in the Miami playbook, he'd want to run some Joyner. That is true. Um, so it's a thin defense though, because there's nothing else in the middle or the bottom. But you got the best defender in the game, in my opinion. Special teams, Indy, Field position kings, right? Um, between the kicking and the punting, they are as good as it gets. Bentley, not much of a returner. Um, Albert Bentley, the man himself, is on Twitter. Bentley might argue that he deserves another point of speed, but they didn't ask him when they were making the game. So is this team shabby or not too shabby in the context? Do I want to play with this team? I want to play with Reggie White. I want that. I don't want to run the Minnesota offense, and I don't want that offensive personnel. So I'm going to say shabby because I wouldn't want to play with them. Let's look at Tampa Bay. Levi coming off a finals run, his best season in a grip. Um, he is not in the Miami playbook. He's not in the LA playbook. We're doing something new. He's Denver. I like the Denver playbook. I'm not sure it's been as successful as I would think it would be in this league. I didn't look into that. I'm just spitballing here. So here's what's good. Cunningham is going to be great. The Denver playbook, he's going to be so good. And he's got the Minnesota wide receivers. Here's what sucks. Top wide receiver is it's not like I think you'd rather have a great bottom wide receiver in the Denver playbook. He'd rather have some speed down there. He doesn't. He's got Leo Lewis there. So that's kind of a ding, right? Like your best guy, Anthony Carter, is going to be like he might be able to grind you some first downs. I had some success with Steve Largent in that top spot in the Denver offense. My whole season was derailed by everybody calling pass on me all the time. Keith Byars, though, Levi might find himself getting Timmy Smith if he can't grind it out successfully with Keith in a two-run playbook. That could be an issue for him. I also personally do not utilize the tight end in the Denver playbook the way that Drew does. Drew loves it. I don't. I'm scared of throwing a pick, and I think you can get that kind of yards just running with your QB. So it might be kind of tough to get the ball in Steve Jordan's hands, which is a bit of a waste. Steve Jordan, forever underutilized, man. He's underutilized in the base game. I think he might be a little underutilized this season. We'll see if Levi can prove me wrong. Um, if you look off the defender to the bottom wide receiver, you can get a decent shot at the tight end a little further down the field. But if they're that far off, you can just throw to your running back, and Byars actually would be a little bit better of a target. So that's the offense. I don't know anything about the Philly O-line. I think they suck, though. I think they're rock bottom. Minnesota top, that's a solid unit. I had them last season. I did notice a difference between Dolman and my man Dexter Manley. He is a little step slower. You notice it. But the fact that Browner is there as well makes this an extremely strong unit. Very good. San Francisco middle, Michael Carter is there. He's there to block extra points. He's one of the best. And then Denver bottom sucks, but you got Pierce Holt. Holt is basically a Rulon Jones clone, only he's going to be down on the bottom side of the defense rather than the top, right? So again, he's in that kind of like secondary option role when you want to protect yourself maybe against a run to the top. So this is a deep and strong defense. It's a really good defense. Washington special teams, they're all right. I guess probably a bottom half unit if I had to. I've had them before. I did okay with them. And then, yeah, that Denver playbook. So shabby, not too shabby. I would take a run at this team, I think. I'd be so intrigued to play with Randall Cunningham and throw to those receivers. And I think it's a really good defense. So I'm going to say not too shabby. Oh, my God. And then I'll have to add an image here in a little bit. Richie and Ninja. Let's look at this LA Rams team. All right, we're in the Cleveland playbook. You can get some good looks in the Cleveland playbook. He has Indy wide receivers, which I don't love in that playbook. Your best guy is Booza. In Cleveland is set up more, I'd say, for a bottom wide receiver and a tight end. But Booza is a decent target. Of course, the show here on this offense is Eric Dickerson, right? When Richie is successful, it's usually because he runs the ball so well. And so he's in a good position to do that. With Danny White trying to pass to the Indy receivers in the Cleveland playbook, Richie's going to have to be very careful. But there are easy looks in the playbook. If you play conservatively, Cleveland can help you a lot. What it is not is necessarily a big play playbook, but that's okay. Doesn't always have to be. Best O line in the biz. He's got Indy, and they'll be blocking on kick returns for Phil Cold Ass McConkey, right? Of course, you get New York for Landetta, biggest booming leg in the biz. Los Angeles top. I mean, Sean Jones and Michael Haynes are. So this is all right. This is interesting. He's got Michael Haynes on top, and then he's got Felix Wright, who was his hero round pick. Who's I think he's almost exactly the same guy, right? 16 top speed, no initial, 9 acceleration. He's got those two guys at safety, which I find very interesting. They are at the lower threshold of guys that you want to be manning all the time. Felix Wright is you would slot him in between like Fred Robinson. He's a step below Fred. And he's a step above Dennis Smith with Denver, and also the New York guy whose name I can't remember. So, and then there of course are a big rung below Frank Minifield. So, an interesting pair of safeties. They're going to have to see some play, but the strength of this defense is the Seattle mid. You got Fred Young, you got Brian Bosworth, right? I had Fred a couple of seasons ago. It's fucking great. When you're playing an offense that you can use him safely against the run, it fucking rules. He's so good. He's so fun. Um, Otherwise, the San Francisco defensive bottom unspectacular. So it's not the best defense we've seen. It is very interesting to me though. And so, is this a team that I would fuck with? Would I want to play with it? I don't know that I would. And I say that because I don't think I'd be very good with it. I'm not very good defending from the interior necessarily. So I'm going to say Shabby, but again, that's just my taste. Um, I have had my ass kicked by teams that I would not want to play with. So let's move on here to Tecmo Ninja. Um, First, he's back in the New York playbook. I am telling you, he has been something else lately. Turned up to 11. Back to the New York playbook. Well, he's a lot better with it than I am. And he's got Marino running it. And maybe the best. No, I think Mac last season probably had the best group of receivers ever assembled. This is the best group of receivers in this league, though. You got Keith Jackson, who's a freakazoid, and then you got Gary Clark and Ricky Sanders, right? That's nuts. With Marino throwing to him, that's gross. Now, the downside, obviously, is you're not going to get much of a running back, but even as far as bad running backs go, Kevin Mack won a title 2 seasons ago. So this is a really good offense. As much as I fucking hate to see it. He's got the Denver O-line, which is better than poop. Defensive top, Hanford Dixon. Jesus, this is a good team. Oh, we hate to see it. God damn it. All right, so Hanford Dixon on top. Mack in the middle. That's a very good combo, right? Minnesota bottom is unspectacular. That's not going to help him too much. I don't know much about the Philadelphia special teams either. I don't suspect they're very good. He's going to be improving them with a kicker, I would assume, a kicker or a punter, whichever one he needs more. But yeah, goddamn, I hate to see it, but this is not too shabby of a team, and it just to a cartoon show villain. We hate it. We hate to see it. All right, and I got to add one more image here. I forgot to add earlier. Well, maybe I did. It says I did. Nope. All right, so I'll just have to add it here. Okay. We're going to look at Oltada's team, and then I think we'll be done, which is good because I've got stuff on the smoker that I should probably go be checking out. My man Oltada, stand up, dude. Love that guy. Let's take a peek at this team. Oltada looking for that big breakthrough. Oltada, I was really hoping Oltada would let his nuts hang and go with the LA playbook. He doesn't have good receivers, and so I understand why he didn't. He had the option. We made a rule change this season that if you get stuck with LA, you don't want it. You don't have to have it. You can clone the last two-run playbook that was taken. In this instance, it would be Denver, which if you had told me this time last year that Denver would be the last playbook taken, I wouldn't have believed you. But so Levi and Oltada will both be running Denver. Big difference being Oltada is going to have Bo Jackson featured in this offense. I mean, imagine getting the ball in Bo's hands on pass two, right? What a threat! If you can get him even an inch to make a move. No, I don't think I did grab Cody and Ingram's page. I'll have to find that one, and then we'll go back and we'll catch them. So Dave Craig, the Dallas receivers, that's not good, and you don't like to see that in a big play playbook like Denver's. But Bo is Bo, so if you've got him, you always got a fighting chance. Defensive top Seattle, they are unexceptional. In fact, they have the worst top defensive end in the game. Easley does have a ton of speed, right? When he's up to top speed, he is quite fast. In the middle, Von Johnson is probably the best linebacker available. I think he's going to be in the Fred Young, Carl Mecklenburg spot, which is going to make him a problem against a lot of teams in the league. Oltada will have to make notes of what team, and I know that information is out there. It might be pinned. We'll have to revisit that. Oltada will have to make note of teams that he can safely use Von Johnson against. And then the Los Angeles bottom, my man Howie Long, best pass rusher in the game. You let him do his thing if you think it's a four receivers play. He'll get in there better than anybody and put pressure on the quarterback. Also, a good option for defense on the bottom part of the field to protect yourself a little bit against the pass game. Chicago special teams, Dennis Gentry, best in the biz. They've got a great kicker and a bad punter, right? Like I forget. I think it's great kicker, bad punter. So all told, is this team shabby? Not too shabby. I don't love that offense, right? And the defense is not suited to my personal taste, but the firepower here, the top line firepower of Bo, Von Johnson, and Howie Long pushes it over, in my opinion, from shabby to not too shabby. I'd take a run with this team. I don't know how good I would do, but I don't think I could resist. At least trying. All right, now let's find our boy Jerry. Did Jerry even know that the draft happened? It's debatable. We're going to have to, I think, take some sort of precaution, like, I don't know, like structure for next time around. Because you hate to see dudes get skipped, but you can't just let hours plow by without checking your phone. Sorry. We're all busy. I drove all goddamn weekend. I went to a graduation party. I played dominoes all night with my family. You can take a few minutes and check. All right, so let's look at Jerry's roster here, though, because it's not too bad. He's in the Washington playbook. Jerry is a curl spammer, inveterate curl spammer, just like me, just like Chris, and he's good at it. And he's going to have plenty of opportunity in that Washington playbook. with Bernie hucking the ball to the Chicago wide receivers. Now, there's not much speed there. Willie Galt, best option, top wide receiver. He's no Vance Johnson, but he'll do all right. Well, I mean, I don't know. Stacy Robinson, who's the 7-1 guy, gave me trouble on curls last season. He quit on some routes, tarnished his legacy because he was well regarded in Seattle history until last season. Joe Morris, not a great running back. I would have told you prior to last season it's tough to win with a guy like that, but DPS just won with Dorsett, so he's fine. Who ended up with Dorsett? I'm not sure I've said his name yet. I might have missed a few guys. Anyway, so Kosar, Morris, Chicago wide receivers, that's okay. In the Washington playbook, I like it. Miami is a good offensive line. Defensive top, that's poop. John Hand's your best guy. Chicago middle. I had him last season. All right, that's right. Mac has Dorsett. Um, Chicago middle. I had him last season. Was not very good with him. But Ninja won a championship, I think. Several seasons. It's been a while. He acts like it was yesterday. It's what 3 seasons ago. I think he won. He didn't do anything but lurch rush noobs with Steve McMichael, and it worked well. And here Jerry's going to be adding Rufus Porter, bottom outside linebacker. It's okay. Not elite. Might bring a little bit more heat. He'll bring more heat on long field goal attempts than anyone other than LT. Yeah, season 7. So three seasons ago, 9-8-7. Oh yeah, he was rolling. We hate to see it. Adding Rufus Porter to that Dallas bottom, well, it's a terrible unit otherwise, but yeah, I mean that's an interesting defense here. I don't hate it. Miami special teams, I had them 2 seasons in a row. Didn't have an issue with them the first time around. I made a ton of field goals because I couldn't finish drives that season, so I ended up getting close but having to kick field goals, and then punted really well with Roby. The bloom came off last season where I just was so frustrated with the kick return game. I was like, bah, anyone but Miami. You do gotta love Reggie Roby. Shabby, not too shabby. Do I want to play with this team? I don't really want to. Well, do I though? I don't think I'd win with this team, but I'd play as them. Let's give it a not too shabby. Finally, my dude Cody, brand new to the league. We know him from the last 2 years of the Omaha Tecmo Bowl tournament. Very good player. Very, very good player. He has the outstanding Dallas playbook. And Neil Anderson, the #1 hero pick, playing the role of Herschel Walker in that playbook. And the San Fran wide receivers. Jerry Rice is going to fucking kill in that playbook. Cody's going to be a real problem this year because you can't necessarily sit on either part. And Cody also, I can tell you, is another guy. He's not afraid to really span those routes that are difficult to cover. And so expect to see a lot of that in route on Dallas Pass 1. It's in the game. Again, it's a legitimate way to play as far as I'm concerned. I'm going to throw an in route all season as well. This is going to be a very difficult offense to deal with, even with a shitty quarterback. And hell, even Tommy Kramer is better than Danny White is. So this is a very powerful offense. Defensively, you got 2 high points, right? The biggest one, of course, Lawrence Taylor, best defender in the game. I think it's kind of born, but it's probably because Dan always has Ronnie Lott, and he's a good player. LT's not in the most helpful spots. That's the only thing you can knock against them. And when I say helpful spot, I mean play to play, right? But otherwise, yeah, I mean he's 1A or 1B, best defender in the game. Los Angeles mid Bill Pickle will bring a little extra heat on a play pick, right? Like I've had him before. It's nice to have that. He'll drop a quarterback before he can get out of the pocket every so often, and get back to the line. And then Rulon Jones in that top spot, that top defensive end. I think Rulon's a good player. So this is an outstanding team. Cody's going to be a real problem this year. He even has the Los Angeles special team. So I've always thought that drafting at the top of a snake draft put you at a big disadvantage. This is a pretty outstanding draft here. So I think Cody's going to have a very strong season. This team is not too shabby at all. I'd love to play with them. I think that's about all I got for the time being. I've yammered on here for quite some time. Um, I appreciate you fellas watching. I wish you the best of luck in season 10. Drew, thanks for all your hard work this weekend. And yeah, have a great night, and I'll catch you later.